Ladies and gentlemen, we did it. We hit the 5,000 subscriber mark, and I'm so incredibly grateful to all of you wonderful people who check out my videos and continue to support my channel. I've been teasing a bit about what the 5K special will entail, and I'm really excited to finally get to it. I'll cut to the chase, let's make some battleizers. Ever since I helped out with SJ's video on power-ups and battleizers within Power Rangers, I've been thinking about how important battleizers are to the franchise in general. This is one of the big differentiators between Power Rangers and its Sentai counterpart, a completely original power-up for only the Red Ranger. In later years, Sentai would come to produce their own Red exclusive power-ups that would be adopted and dubbed as battleizers, like Kyoryu Red's Carnival Mode and Ryosoulger's Ryosoul Max to name a few. But for this video, I want to consider what battleizers are as they were, purely original designs separate from Sentai. When thinking of a new form, power-up, upgrade, or anything, something that's important to think about is, as always, thematic relevance. That's especially what you see in these newer Sentai power-ups. The basis for the upgrades are usually tied pretty tightly to the concept, and why wouldn't they be? They're the original season after all, so they do have a very deep understanding of the story's direction and design philosophy, making everything seem very natural. With Power Rangers, it's a bit of a different story. Now, I'm not saying that Power Rangers power-ups and battleizers have no regard for the original story or concept, but oftentimes their focus on thematic relevance is extremely small in comparison to their real focus, making this upgrade the biggest and baddest thing you've ever seen. And that's what I think is the greatest charm of the battleizer. While there is merit in developing a battleizer that is smart, clever, and fits in with the concept well, there's also merit in putting together a big, bold statement that is representative of true Power Ranger spirit. So for this little exercise, I chose 3 Power Ranger seasons that hadn't received an exclusive battleizer. For each of them, I try to have it representative of a specific time period, or specifically a different challenge from one another. Ultimately, my goal really is to come up with a believable battleizer from the perspective of the design teams during their respective time periods. This means understanding what the battleizer is all about, as well as its design philosophy and evolution across the years. And again, these pieces are 100% drawn by me. Unfortunately, due to technical difficulties, I didn't record the time lapse, but I hope you all enjoy anyways. The first Red Ranger I wanted to gift a battleizer to was TJ, the Red Turbo Ranger. Yes, I know that Tommy was technically the first Red Turbo Ranger, but Tommy has gotten enough accolades as a Ranger and I figured I'd give it to the main man himself. The reason I chose Turbo was, well, it's one of the few early seasons before In Space that didn't receive a battleizer, being right before the concept's debut. And being how that entire era has an entirely different approach to design, I felt it would be a decent challenge. My original idea was to take TJ's Red Lightning Turbo Zord and have it come apart as armor. The way it would adorn TJ would end up being kind of similar to Kamen Rider Drive's type formula. And while I did like this idea at first, 1, it started to look too much like Drive, and 2, it didn't feel like the route that they would have gone in during this time. There are battleizers and upgrades that integrate existing mecha or other assets from the concept's repertoire, but it almost felt kind of too smart. Especially if this were to act as a predecessor for In Space's battleizer, it needs to be much more simple. So I kind of took some cues from Lost Galaxy and Lightspeed with this one. Say hello to the Turbo Boost Battleizer, although I'm sure they just call it battleizer in the show. To face greater threats from Divatox, TJ is granted this significant boost in his speed and combat abilities. This new armor grants him wheeled boots, as well as 2 wheel cannons that could be rotated to face backwards to provide a huge boost or forward to fire upon his enemies. I struggled to figure out what logo to put on the center, but since this would be an early battleizer, I felt that the Thunderbolt symbol would be 100% appropriate. The next Red Ranger I wanted to battleize is Casey, the Red Jungle Fury Ranger, and I know what you're thinking, Casey already has a battleizer. Well, does he? Casey has a Strike Rider, which is a Power Rangers exclusive vehicle that grants Casey some armor while he rides it, but that's really about it. I'm sure some of you might, but I had never really considered this a true battleizer, as it lacks the dynamic transformation and power increase that a battleizer has. So I first sought out to amplify this by combining the entire cycle into his armor, but I stopped for a couple reasons. 1, the cycle was getting too annoying to draw, and 2, well, it was looking too similar to Lightspeed's. I shifted my idea to having Casey potentially combine Theo and Lily's Jaguar and Cheetah powers, almost like some Trinity form. But then that also seemed too easy, and there have been examples of this being done in Sentai already too. I needed it to feel like something only Casey could access. I like the idea of combining animal powers, then it hit me. Casey is trained by Master Finn in the Shark style, so what if by combining his Tiger and Shark styles he created a new form, a Tiger Shark form? Yes, the Tiger Shark is an actual animal, so that's why I felt like this might be clever enough and exclusive enough to be his battleizer. When designing this form, I thought about how the Dino Thunder and Mystic Force battleizers heavily alter the underlying suit, so it wouldn't just be armor. Basically, it's an amped up version of Casey's Tiger suit with a lot of shark elements. And here we have the Red Tiger Shark Ranger. When combining his two fighting styles, Casey was able to invoke an entirely new jungle beast composed of his innate tiger and Master Finn's shark. In addition to this new armor, each hand holds a gauntlet of the shark and the tiger, where he crushes his enemies between two apex predators' jaws. I really like how this one came out. I wanted it to be a balance of conceptually smart and just really out there. The color contrast and the dual animal representation make this feel vivid, vibrant, and full of fury. And the last ranger to get the Battleizer treatment is Scott, the red RPM ranger. Yeah, I know, it's right after Jungle Fury, isn't it? What's the challenge here? Well, if Turbo was designing a Battleizer for the early Saban era, and Jungle Fury was designing a Battleizer for a season that sort of almost had a Battleizer, RPM just represents my attempt at a Battleizer in the later era with no blueprint whatsoever. I was kind of really stumped with this one. I didn't want to make it too similar to TJ's by embracing the speed theme, so my first thought was actually trying to make something of the Paleomax Zords. These Zords technically were exclusive to Scott, so maybe he deeply resonated with them and they granted him some prehistoric armor. But then I didn't like the idea too much after a while. It just felt like I was putting Scott in a Megazord suit without the helmet, and it also started to stray too far away from the dominant red color scheme. I was stuck. How do I make an RPM Battleizer that truly represents something about Scott, or the Eagle Racer Zord, or anything? Then it came to me, let's give him the Jungle Fury treatment in terms of drastically changing his image, but also taking some inspo from Turbo. However, instead of giving him armor that makes him go fast, what if the armor allowed him to transform into something that went fast? For this Battleizer, I wanted to give Scott armor that would let him transform into a race car, but then to truly embody Eagle power, be able to fly as well. I had to sort of think from a Transformers designer's perspective because I wanted this to actually work as if it were a toy. I'll be pretty honest that I used Transformers Cybertron's Optimus Prime as a baseline when figuring out this mechanic. Honestly, this is really different from what I thought we would end up with, but I'm pretty satisfied. Enter the Eagle Strike Operator. To deal with Vengeance's increasing dangers, Dr. K granted Scott the ability to embed himself into the Zord technology, granting him some awesome armor that offered increased firepower, and also a way to give chase to speedy enemies via his racer form or his jetter form. I didn't draw it out, but hopefully you can see how the wing segments straighten out in his ranger form, and by folding the back segments downwards and aligning them to his side, he transforms into his car mode, with those wings opening up to go into jetter mode. Here are our 3 brand new Battleizers. Once again, our challenges today were developing a Battleizer from the early era, a Battleizer from the later era, and an upgrade to a season that almost had a Battleizer. What do you think? Do you think these would fit in with the Power Rangers design philosophy and brand? I hope you guys liked this fun little experiment for my 5K special. To celebrate, I really wanted to make sure that I could put together something new and ambitious for you all. I have to thank you all again for helping me reach this incredible milestone. It fills me with so much joy to know that you all enjoy the content I put together here, and I hope to continue creating more enjoyable content as we clear more and more milestones to come. As always, I'll be back next time with more fun Toku topics to Toku talk about. See you all next time.